Let's move on. South Africa's central bank, or the Reserve Bank, is looking at how to walk the thin line between access to finance as well as the safety issues for consumers. So that's about financial crimes when it comes to what you call payment system. And that was what this panel of experts discussed just on Friday, on the final day of the Payment System Conference in South Africa. Let's take a listen.
I think it's paramount for regulatory systems to be built on the fact that institutions need to manage risk. There are many different risks that institutions need to manage, and in the payment space, most of those materialize upstream or downstream before the actual payments happen. And that's, I think, also where a lot of the focus on managing risk needs to be placed in the way that regulatory systems phrase obligations for institutions. And to be able to focus on those areas before payments actually are initiated, when customers are onboarded, or when cash is dispensed from a system, etc. The other aspect is, I think, for regulatory systems to be framed as outcomes that need to be achieved.
Right.
In other words, explaining what it is that institutions need to do when we expect them to manage risks, rather than how they should do that. It's when regulatory system starts getting into the how-to that we run into serious problems, that we create anomalies that institutions cannot meet. And that's especially where we then get in the way of access to financial services, and where we actually make it impossible for institutions to do business with people that have absolutely no crime risk and that are underserved in other senses in our financial system.
So, Peter, you highlight two key design features. You talk about a risk-based approach that enables us to go to work and look for risk upstream and downstream. You talk about an outcomes-based approach so that we're really able to have the nuance of distinguishing between those who could be a risk and those who don't. So let me build on that, Josephat, and bring that particular design imperative or features that Peter has spoken about and say, how does that stack up compared to what you were seeing in the Zimbabwean Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe? When you think about specific regulatory measures that you've put in place, how have you ensured that on the one hand, they are addressing the security concerns, but on the other hand, they're still enabling access to financial services?
I must say that payment systems has always been about managing risk.
Yeah.
When you are developing payment systems, you need to ensure that they have a comprehensive risk management framework. And later on in the years, it was always operational risk as the major one, and the major risks we all know, liquidity, credit, and everything. But later on, we began to see cybersecurity coming as a risk as well. And then we had to build up on our regulation to add a cybersecurity layer.
Yeah.
And naturally now we have seen AML-CFT coming to the boardroom again, and very strongly. And we have also been given in Zimbabwe a mandate to be a competent AML-CFT supervisor.
Yeah.
So if I can just go back, why were we given this mandate? We had gone into the grey list twice.
Sure.
And we had come out. And in the last coming out of from the grey list, we, as payment systems, contributed quite well as we showed the assessors that most of our payments are digital, and it became a coping mechanism to manage AML-CFT. So after that, our AML-CFT law in the country allows designation of certain institutions with expertise to manage particular risks. So in the Reserve Bank, I'm one of the regulators of AML-CFT. But balancing the two, the trade-off, is always difficult. But what I must say is that safety has always been one of our objectives in the payment space.
Yeah.
But it's only that it's expanded mandate. So we have two mandates in the bank in terms of supervision and oversight. We are the overseer of the payment system. That's one from the regulation. Now we have the AML-CFT supervision. So we had then to tune ourselves to that organizational structure. That's what we had to do. Not easy. Any of us here would know mandate comes first and the resources comes last. You are lucky if you get the resources before you leave.
We have made huge progress with regard to the exchange control relaxation in South Africa.
Yeah.
In order to promote cross-border payments, investments, and trade. So the idea is to say, when economic participants, individual corporates, and institutional investors, when they interact cross-border, they must not feel the impact of exchange controls or restrictions. So it must be, the idea is that it must just be seamless, so that's the main aim. So the minister then gave us precondition to say, you can liberalize, but I want the following. I need to ensure that you don't lose the information.
Yeah.
There's a lot of information that you get from applications. That information cannot be lost. Two, you must make sure that you strengthen the fight against illicit flows.
Yes.
So that is very cardinal. So whatever we do, we must ensure that the fight against illicit flow is strengthened. And the third one that is very, very important, ensure that we do away with the red tapes. There's understanding that there are red tapes within the systems, and those red tapes must be done. So how do we put it in practice ourselves as a department? We started at the beginning. We said, when we appoint people, when we appoint entities, what type of entities are we bringing to the system?
Right.